History is authored by the victors, and stories that don't fit the narrative they wish to write are often omitted. Yet, ever so often, stories of extraordinary people that defy the status quo emerge. G.W. Offley was one such figure who went from enslavement to freedom and spent his life freeing others through the Underground Railroad and saving souls through preaching. He was also a mixed martial arts teacher. And while I find it almost insulting to contextualize his life through MMA, as he's so much more than that, what is a footnote in his life redefines what we know about martial arts history. So in this video, I'd like to share with you the story of Greensbury, Washington Offley, one of America's earliest. Greensbury, Washington Offley was born into slavery December 18th, 1808, in Centerville, Maryland, to a free black man and an enslaved black woman, whose names are now unknown. After the death of the enslaver, his will granted his mother freedom and gave GW and his brothers their freedom at 25. GW, his brother, and mother were purchased by his father. However, the family of the former owner did not want them to go up for auction and threatened to shoot GW's father. But his mother threatened to cut the throats of all the children if they were sold to anyone else. And soon the family was united. But things were extremely difficult, and Offley spent his youth helping to support his family. When he was old enough, his father hired him out to former enslavers, and this money would go to feed his family, as well as freeing his other enslaved siblings. To make extra money, the young GW taught himself to make baskets, foot mats, and horse collars from corn husk. This would foreshadow his later resourcefulness that allowed him to advance through life and help others. At 16, GW begins hiring enslaved men to chop wood, catch fish, and oysters at night. And this not only allowed him to help his own family, but also those still in bondage, some of whom he was able to help free under the cover of night. One day on his way to work, he found a piece of a chapter of an old Bible, Genesis 25, concerning Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. At this time, there was an old colored man working for his father who took the page from Offley and read it to him. From then on, he wanted to learn to read so that he could read the Bible. And the man would teach him as long as he stayed with them. As he would state, without the advantage of one day's schooling in his life, he was able to learn to read. And he was about age 19 at this time. Eventually, the man would move away and he would seek out a new teacher. He was acquainted with a slave owner's son who agreed to teach him how to read. GW repays this boy by teaching him how to wrestle, box, and fight. This, of course, is MMA. Wrestling is the foundation. Boxing is essential. And he more than likely learned this from his father. While this may seem unlikely, or perhaps he wasn't teaching what we do now, that's MMA, it must be remembered that Africans invented wrestling, and the concept of win by pinfall comes from an ancient African creation lore. And many African styles wrestle religiously. And during the days of colonialism in early America, many Africans brought with them various wrestling styles that are still practiced to this day. It is recorded in history in places like Henry Bibb's slave narratives, which is one of many examples, that every Saturday and Sundays, blacks wrestled on the plantation, and owners even raised or bought blacks specifically to be plantation fighters. Many blacks won their freedom that way. This is why I suspect that his father may have been a prize fighter, and perhaps he learned it from him and various other blacks in the South. Africans also brought various forms of boxing and kicking arts, such as dambe and capoeira, or in America, knocking and kicking, which was famous in the South. From the sound of it, Offley did all three, and he was no amateur, as we will later see, especially at boxing. When he turned 21, Offley became free, and in 1835 he moved to Hartford, Connecticut. Having read the whole Bible, he became an influential preacher. In his own book, he says that at this time he worked on the railroad and taught boxing school. I had thought that working on the railroad was his work and teaching boxing was perhaps his side hustle or passion. However, Offley was actually alluding to the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a system that resisted slavery by helping many blacks escape. Harriet Tubman was the most famous conductor. It was this system that freed over 200,000 blacks who then joined the Union and came back to the South with arms, saving the Union from defeat. They gloss over that part in history. GW was an early part of the Underground Railroad, teaching boxing by day and freeing many enslaved blacks by night, as he did in his youth. He also raised money for those now freed men, presumably from his work as a boxing instructor. Before becoming a preacher, GW wrote this: "Perhaps some persons will ask, why did I teach the art of wrestling, boxing, and fighting when desirous to learn the Bible? I answer, because no one is as contemptible as a coward. With us, a coward is looked upon as the most degraded wretch on earth, and is only worthy to be a slave. My brother's master, Governor R. Wright of Maryland, taught his children never to take insult from anyone, and he thought that this was proper etiquette. In other words, although he's a man of God, he ain't pussy, and you better keep it respectful, or you might get fucked up, 'cause he ain't taking no shit." GW's martial arts skill would have certainly come in handy during his days in the Underground Railroad, although the preferred method was espionage and escape. Harriet Tubman carried a gun and commanded the U.S. Navy. 100% he had to resort to his martial arts skill when freeing enslaved people, and also for checking dudes for disrespect. And there may have been the matter of maintaining his own freedom. Although he had freedom papers, he still had to fight to keep his freedom. Eventually, GW notes that he had been enabled to see things in a different light and denounced violence. He then moves to Delaware and begins working in a hotel, where he meets a poor white boy who asks Offley for food and teaches him to write in exchange for provisions. This is how he learned to write, and he would write on behalf of black interests. So this concludes the story of Greensbury, Washington Offley. And while he is more than a mixed martial arts teacher, this footnote of his life rewrites our understanding of mixed martial arts history and reclaims black martial arts history. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe if you ain't already subscribed. And if you like this content and want to support, hit that super thanks button or hit me up in the Cash App. Or when I get a Patreon, you guys can go over there. Check the comments, check the link. Check the description and see if there's any links.
Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improve footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.